Welcome back to Way of the Wrench, and on today's very special episode, we are going to do the final assembly on our budget build 1080p virtual pinball cabinet. I'm excited. Are you excited? Let's go! So the logical order of putting this together is the exact reverse of what we did during the teardown. So if you've put the things into cardboard boxes, look at the top of the box, and that'll be the first things you got to put on. So I'm putting the leg brackets on, and what do you know? The bag of screws that are labeled nice and neatly are right next to them. So that's the first step. A lot of these parts will be really quick to install because it's no worry or concern about where it goes, because we've already got the holes screwed where this was previously in and working. All right, next up is the pinball legs themselves. Now this time around, we don't want the metal to start damaging our very expensive paint and vinyl artwork that we've just put in. So we're gonna use a leg protector. Now you can get these in color matching as well. I've chosen black for mine, but you can also get an older school type, which is the felt. They both serve the same purpose. They're there to protect your vinyl. So we're gonna put those on underneath. And then when you're gonna put your legs in, remember we just painted, so those holes might be a little tight. So maybe try from the other side, make sure that this is gonna go through okay, rather than just forcing it through with tools and cross-threading and stripping the nut that's in the bracket in the back. Other thing you can do if you're having troubles is the bracket on the back, just loosen it a bit so it's a bit floating, and that'll help align the nut that's built into the bracket with the bolt. Now, when you go to tighten these up, make sure they're not crazy tight so you don't strip the nut on the back. And a little hint, if you don't go really crazy tight, the cabinet will have a little bit more wiggle to it, and that'll actually help with being able to nudge the cabinet easier. Okay, at this point, I'm going to put all the various white block pieces that were taken out for ease of painting. I'm going to put those back in, everything except the shelves, because that'll make it easier to put components in from underneath, and then the shelves. All right, so before we get too many components in this cabinet, now would be a good time to install our grounding cable. Now, a grounding cable is simply a flat wire that we are going to hook up to every single external metal component on this cabinet, so that if somebody was to come up to it and touch a metal component, and in the inside there happened to be a loose live wire, that person won't get electrocuted. Now, there is another reason why we want to do this. So let's say this pinball cabinet is in your living room and you're walking across the carpet building up static electricity. When you go to touch that metal component, there is a fluke chance that that high voltage spike goes into your computer and fries a computer chip. Those of you that work in electronics know exactly what I'm talking about. So we're going to put this in, and let's take a look at the components and where I'm going to route this cable. All right, so I'm going to start my grounding strap underneath the bracket for the pinball leg, or as an option, you could put a washer and put it underneath one of these screws. Then I'm going to go up here and go under the plate for the metal part of the plunger. And then I'm going to come up and put it underneath with a washer for the bolt for holding the stainless side playfield trim. And then we need a way to connect to our lockdown bar. So I'm going to go down here and put it under the metal plate for the toggle clamp, which attaches to the lockdown bar. Then I'm going to go up here and get underneath one of the bolts for the coin door itself. Travel along, probably just because I have to go anyway, I'm going to put it underneath this toggle clamp for the lockdown bar as well. And then I'm going to route it to this side for the playfield stainless trim under here, and then down under this leg. That completes all the front stuff, and then it's going to travel to the back of the cabinet. As that strap goes down to the back of the cabinet, I'm going to pin it to the case of the second computer ATX power supply, and that case is going to act like a ground, and I'll show you that in a bit. And then that cable is going to continue to the back left leg, over to the top, to the other leg, and that'll be the end of the grounding step. Now, when you go to install your playfield side trim here, remember there is a piece of double-sided tape in here. So what I highly recommend is you mount it, make sure everything is good first. Then I would take it off and take the cover off the double-sided tape and do the final mounting for it. Now, just a note for the future, if you ever decide to take this off, you just taped it really, really well down to your expensive and beautiful vinyl artwork. So that will get pulled off if you take this off later. So a little hint, take a razor blade and cut just up underneath the line for the playfield trim. And that way, if this ever comes off, you won't ever be pulling your vinyl artwork off too. So the key thing to this grounding cable setup is that we actually have a ground. So what we're going to use is the outside case of this ATX power supply, so that when we put the grounding cable underneath and pin this to the cabinet, that will be connected. Now we just got to make sure with a multimeter that the outside case of this power supply is indeed connected to the terminal, the earth terminal on our plug here. So let's check that. Okay, set your multimeter to ohms and then just check by putting these two together and it should go to 0. And in this case, I've got a beep function on mine. So very close to 0, that's the resistance of the wires. So now what we do is we put it to the case or the bracket, touching the case, and then this ground on the plug. Okay, that's a good ground for the case. Perfect, we're gonna use that. All right, and just to double check that you've done everything properly in the install of the cabinet, make sure that you check with the ground on the plug for the power supply and go around to all the external metal things like your legs, side playfield strips, toggle clamps for your lockdown bar, plunger plate, and the front legs and the coin door. So, should hear a beep on all those outside metal pieces. If you have on all of it, you've done a good job. All right, the very last thing we got to do for this grounding cable is the loose ground cable between the parts, so we can pretty those up and make it nice and parallel to the cabinet, looking real professional. And we can use one of these industrial staplers, just put it over top of the loose cable and put in a staple every couple inches just to pretty it up and make it look good. Okay, off camera, I'm going to start installing all the buttons and space shakers and exciters and everything in the cabinet. There's no sense showing you how to do this again. Remember, this video is part of a whole series, so if there's anything in here you want to know how to hook up and how to figure out, there's a video for that. And if you haven't already, I recommend you watch right from the beginning to the end, because it is kind of done in a chronological way. So I will see you in a little bit, and then we can clean up all the wiring with something else I want to show you. All right, I have pretty much everything installed in the cabinet, just not the wiring yet. And you know what? As much as this is a little bit of extra work to put it back together, I'm actually really enjoying it, because this time I'm not fussing over where things have to go and what fastener and what length, so I don't poke through the side of the cabinet and all that stuff. Just put the screws that are in the bag, put it into the hole that's there and tighten it up, and you get to see this thing build together real quick. And to top it all off, it's all painted and looks absolutely beautiful. All right, the next thing up is the back box. Now, here's a little tip for you guys, and some of you will know what I'm talking about. When you put things together that have been painted and with some weight on them, they tend to stick really, really well, to the point where when you go to take them off, they literally can take paint off, even though you've let them dry properly. So things like the bottom of the back box and the top of this cabinet, we're gonna have a lot of weight on there on freshly painted products that have dried. We're gonna prevent that from happening by using some automotive paste car wax. All you do is put it on, let it kind of haze up and dry up, and get a nice clean cloth and just rub it aggressively to get it to disappear. Your paint will look a little nicer and it'll be protected, and that will not cause that paint sticking issue. So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that looks great. All right, same thing with the back box. I'm gonna off camera install everything that needs to go in here, and then I will see you in a bit to do the wiring. Remember to take your time, because you don't want to scratch any of the painted surfaces, and things might be a little tighter because of the paint. So make sure in the building phase that you don't have fits way too tight. You may find things that you need to fix. So for example, the speaker grills, not exactly happy now that I'm looking at them. I might put a little kind of diffuser kind of screen cloth in there, or some speaker grills, something to kind of hide the speakers a bit. So in my situation, I didn't like seeing the little Logitech left and right speakers behind the grills. So I went out to a local fabric store, Fabricana for people in the Lower Mainland. This is speaker cloth. You can get it in white and black. I kind of like the idea of white, because then the lights inside here would kind of reflect off it and be even brighter. But I think in the end, black will look actually better and hide better as well, plus not get dirty in the long run. So I got all of this, not quite a yard, maybe like a quarter of a yard for $2, so really quite cheap. And all you do is you cut it down to fit where you want. Now, if I was making a speaker grill out of this stuff, I'd probably have a little wooden frame that I would spray adhesive the speaker cloth and the frame and wrap it nice and tightly around the frame. However, there is no room back in here, because I have my DMD monitor going against here, as well as the speaker guide here. So what I have decided to do is cut this down to size. And then rather than gluing it down, I've got these thumbtacks. They'll have a very low profile, and all you gotta do is basically figure out where you want it, press in the one thumbtack, and for all the other ones, you kind of stretch it and give it a little tightness before you put the next ones in. That way there's no buckles and weird, and it's gonna work great for me. Nice, I'll flip it over and show you what it looks like. Okay, now that you have all your components in, it is time to rewire it again. Now, hopefully you labeled everything so it's not too much of a chore, but we aren't just going to throw this back together. We are going to try to do our best to pretty this up and make this so that we can maybe conceal some of these wires and make it look even cleaner. So let me show you what kind of options you have. Right, if you got some extra bucks kicking around, you can get yourself a cable management kit. This is a pretty slick system. So this one's from Stag Geek, and I'll put all the links down below so you can order exactly what I ordered. It comes as a kit, so you've got these little kind of channels that the lid can literally come off. You put all the cables in there, and you can route the cables out the sides if you need to access different components. When you're all done, put the lid back on. When you know where this is going to go, you can peel back the sticker and stick it down to the sides, the bottom of the cabinet. And you can link these together with these little pieces. A nice little system that kind of just clips on the end, and then you get another one and you extend it out. I'm sure you can take this with a hacksaw and trim them down so you fit your cab as well. And there's some corner pieces, so you can literally put this in the corner of the cabinet and make a 90-degree bend in it. What else? We got some screws in here to attach it to the cabinet as well. So very nice system. I'm going to be using a lot of these to try to do this. But if you can't afford this and you're looking for even a cheaper thing, let's take a look at the next option. All right, the next option is something called split looms. Now you see this for a lot of automotive applications for prettying up wiring. It's really quite cheap stuff. You get it in a big long roll and you just cut it down to what you need. Now it's basically a hollow plastic tube with a split down the side so that you can feed the wires in and attach wires at 90 degrees from it wherever your parts are, and then run this, and this is all you see in between the parts. So not a bad option. So once you've figured out where you want these in the cabinet to make this layout looking a little bit nicer, you can use these. They're basically just kind of like little brackets, and you can screw this into the side of your cabinet and a couple every, I don't know, 6 inches or foot, and that'll make some nice cable organization as well. And if you're not even interested in hiding your wires, but you do want to have things kind of rooted a certain way and stay put, you can use these. It's basically got a self-adhesive tab on it. You peel the sticker off, stick it where you want it, and then you take your zap straps, feed it through this way or that way, put your wire in between and close it up and cinch it down, and that'll keep that wire wherever you stuck this to. So very cheap, it just doesn't hide the wires. Okay, now for these components to attach them to the shelf, I don't know if you remember during the construction phase, we just used some double-sided or looped over masking tape to hold them in place. But now that we know they're good in those positions, I'm going to switch up to using some Velcro. So I'll use the hook and loop and put half of it on the underside of these parts, the other side on the shelf. That way these things won't move all over the place, and there'll be even a little bit of kind of anti-vibration for these parts, which will be good. Okay, before I sort out this wiring, I want to get these channels figured out in my cabinet where they're going to go so that they kind of make the most sense. And that way, when I put one of these wires to one component on here, I can use the channels and start making this look really nice. So let's take a look at where we're going to put these channels. All right, now because I have all my components exactly where I want them, and I'm doing this after the fact, I may have to settle with where I can put things. However, if you are starting off your project, you may want to place these first in all the edges and corners so that you can place components around these. You'll probably end up with a nicer, cleaner look. Now for me, I need all the wires getting to the front buttons and stuff, so I'm going to put channels up at the front here. Might be a little tight right here with the base shaker, so I might put in one of the splicer pieces and put it in the middle. And then I want a channel going up the left and the right sides of the cabinet so we can get the wires all the way to the back into the power supply. I've already pre-installed one of these upside down under this shelf, so all of these wires and stuff can get nice and neatly tucked in underneath. And then I do have wires coming up here. I don't know if I'm going to just leave them exposed for that part, or I might cut a little small piece of channel and put it here and here so I can run the wires up there. All right, because I have my power supply already installed, I might just run the channel up to it, use one of these 90 degrees to bring it up along the side of it, and then right here I have a space between the power supply and the shelf. Add another 90 degrees and I can feed the wires to the other side of the shelf where it'll be much the same to bring it back down, and then a channel running to the back of the cabinet. Okay, underneath this shelf, I'm going to put another one of these underneath so that all the wires from underneath can go down on the channel and keep it clean underneath. And also put one of these channels on the back, probably way up high above the fans, so that way all the signal and power and all the wires going to the LED system and to the back box can get neatly tucked in there as well. Okay, after I've got all these channels taped down, I am going to start one at a time going through this mess, and I will see you at the very end to show you what it looks like. Woohoo! Time to put the playfield mount and put the playfield monitor in. Sweet! Nice. All right, so in the interest of saving time for the video, off camera, I turned on the switch and see what would work, with fingers crossed that after taking everything out and putting it back together, it would just all be working perfectly fine. So 3 monitors turn on, PC turns on, pinup popper loads up, music's playing, awesome. I go to change a table and there is no satisfying clunk of the flipper. And once I load a game, there is no surround sound feedback. So take a look around. I got no button lamps. I got no computer fans. So really quite apparent that I don't have 12-volt things operating. So I open it up and sure enough, the power supply is not working. So first off, I'm thinking, what did I change? Well, in the interest of cleaning up the wiring, I ended up cutting this big bulky connector off of the ATX power supply so I could route those wires better. And I forgot that I had the little jumper wire to make that ATX power supply turn on without a computer. So easy fix, just go back and find the black and green wires, solder them together, and that is now working. So everything's back except for one little thing. All right, and that one little thing was the exit button was not lighting up. The button works, but the lamp wasn't working. So to be safe and not hurt myself and fry anything, I shut it all down, get in there and take a look at the little spade connector on the power, and it looks like it's a little loose. So I take it off, crimp on a new one, put it back in, turn it all on, and there's still no lamp. So, okay, I'll have to investigate a bit further. Shut it all off, take out the lamp, go to a power supply in the shop and try it one way. Button doesn't light, and go the other way and it lights. So I kind of don't think about it too much and think, oh, I guess it must be an LED and the polarity matters, which it didn't because it's just a lamp. So I go back, switch the polarity, turn it back on, still doesn't work. So now I'm getting tired to turn this on and off to do this check. So I reach in with the power on through the coin door and give it a little wiggle, and sure enough it flickers, so it's just a loose connection. And then I figure, well, if that's not the case, then I should switch the polarity back. So I take the power off, and when I let go of the hot 12-volt positive wire, I let it go and it touches right next to it, which is the signal wire going back to the KL25Z board. And at that moment, I hear a, what's that? I look over, and I just in time to see a nice little black plume of smoke coming out of the chip on the KL25Z board. That's never good. Once the magic escapes, you can't stick it back in. Right, so this is your public service announcement. Whenever you are working inside your cabinet, take the extra time to shut everything down so that you are safe and your delicate electronic equipment is safe too. Now, to top it all off and make matters worse, KL25Zs are very premium right now. If you look around, there's literally back orders to March of 2024. That's not good. Thank God I have a virtual pin plunger kit, and I need the actual virtual pin software to be installed on that KL25Z board. So I ordered one from Virtual Pin, talked to Paul, sounds like I'm going to get it in about a week. So as sucky as it is, and the cost of that and shipping and duty and conversion to Canadian, it's not a cheap fix, but should be getting going next week. So while we're doing that, why don't we take a look at doing the next thing for the rest of this video. Yeah, it's just money. Just money. It's just money. And then because we now know that there is a power 4 or 5 millimeters away from the signal connections on those buttons, and it could possibly come loose in 6 months or a year and fry another KL25Z board, I do not want that ever happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some heat shrink tubing and make sure that they stay on. And if they ever do come off, that spade connector will be protected with this plastic. So I'm going to go ahead and do all that. Now, I absolutely love that I did a white interior in here. Everything is really well lit up and I can see all the wiring, etc. However, when I'm playing this in a dark room, or if I want to show somebody the inside and open up the coin door, it's going to be kind of dark in there. So I thought it would be a good idea to throw in some nice white LED strip lighting. I'm just going to do some 5-volt stuff and put it along the sides here and maybe on the inside of the front panel. So that way when you open the coin door, it lights it all up for us. So let's take a look at where I'm going to put it. Now, if I had thought about this right from the beginning of the build, it would have been maybe nicer to have stop blocks that are, instead of being just one small spot, were kind of like a 1-inch strip. And then I could put this LED strip underneath it. Now you don't actually see the glaring LED light, but you see the light coming down off of it. So I kind of still want to do something like that. I just have to work around my components. So I'm kind of thinking something like this, aiming down. Now, to have somewhere to kind of hide that strip, I've got some, what is this, 1/2-inch L channel. Cut a strip that goes right in between the stop blocks, and I can put the strip right underneath it so we don't see it, yet we'll see the light. And because this is a nice shiny aluminum L channel, it'll kind of reflect any of the side light to go back down as well. So put one on this side, one on the other, maybe one on the front panel too, so that I can have the light coming inside the cabinet. And I think I'm going to have to change the stay for the playfield mount, just because if I want to put a strip there, it's going to interfere with it. So I might go on and do a kind of a copy of what MGR Net did on his build. And to have some forward thinking about where I'm going to wire this up so that we have control over these LED lighting. When the coin door opens, there is some extra pinouts on the exact switch that I used for the coin door. So if I pick the top 2 terminals here, door's open, it's beeping, so that's going to send electricity through there. If I route the ground over the positive 5 volts to here, and then when the door closes, it'll shut it off. So that'll be perfect. So with these 5-volt USB powered connections, you can literally just leave this and plug it in and figure out another switching mechanism. Or if you don't want to cut into this, you can literally buy these female USB connectors where you can connect that in, and then you get the wires to tap into for power and ground. So whatever you'd like to do. For me, I'm going to just start attaching these to these strips, and I'm going to connect them in a couple of series and put them around the cabinet, and you'll see that in a sec. All right, it's finally that time that you've all been waiting for patiently, and it is the final reveal of our budget 1080p virtual pinball cabinet. And that'll have to be for next video. The video's getting really long, so I'm gonna cut it here, and I will put a video out real quick for you guys, and it'll be a lot shorter, just kind of showcasing what we did on this thing and in all its glory and goodness. If you have any questions about what we did in this video, feel free to put them down below and I will help you out as much as possible. And if you haven't already, why don't you join us on Instagram, Way of the Wrench. Till next time, take it easy.